Hello guys, it's Rhino and welcome to one more Played Right. Today in this video preview we're going to learn the rules of the second edition of Waste Nights by Galakta Games that is on Kickstarter right now. Waste Nights is a post-apocalyptic game of survival and adventure for 1 to 4 players set in a dystopian Australia, which is destroyed by experiments of a powerful corporation. Each player becomes a Waste Knight, traveling through the wasteland and fighting various enemies. They try to survive hardships and discover mysterious places and resolve narrative encounters with many branching options to follow. They also gather experience points which they need to upgrade their gear using a unique deck of special abilities. At the same time, they should avoid suffering wounds, radiation, or damage to their vehicle if they don't want to end up with permanent injuries or malfunctions. The heart of the game is in the stories. It's scenario-based and each scenario has many different plots, and the way it works, it allows players to get into the game and the story without having to focus too much on the rules. The goal of the game is based on the theme of a given adventure and changes depending on players' decisions and narrative choices. Some of them are co-op, some are competitive, and some of them may end with the players grouping around different factions and being forced to fight their former friends. The copy of the game I have in my hands is a prototype, so this is not how the final game will look like. I only have a small part of the Book of Tales. It's supposed to be around 140 pages long. The dice will be engraved, there will be probably a couple of more knights and vehicles, some extra cards, and so on. So let's begin with the setup of the game. You place the board, you shuffle and place the exploration deck and the wasteland decks, highway or desert, and scrub or mountains, and the special deck. Then we also have the injury deck with the unconscious side face up and the malfunction deck with the wrecked side face up. You place all dice, the time marker, and 2 camp tokens on the camp side of the board. We take thread tokens and place them inside the thread bag, and we also place the resource tokens of ammo, fuel, and meds, and all the other tokens you'll find on the box and make a pull. Last, set aside the starting gear that's going to be used by specific characters and the remaining gear cards you place in the card holder with the red side, the broken side, face up. To determine first player, each player rolls 1 die in each color and counts their successes. Whoever has the most becomes the first player and takes the first player marker. Then each player, starting from the first and going clockwise, chooses 1 knight and takes the knight sheet, the knight figure, and upgrade deck. Then each player takes 1 set of knight tokens and a plastic disc of the same color and an XP marker, which they place at the top of the XP track. The last player chooses a vehicle, and the rest of the players counterclockwise do the same. Then in the same way, each player chooses a gear card until each knight has 1 armor and up to 2 weapons and can place them in the weapon slot as long as they occupy up to 2 hands. Last, each player takes 2 fuel, 2 ammo, and 2 meds. Everything that you do after the setup is given by the scenario that you'll choose to play. For this prototype version, I only have 1 scenario, the Awakening, which you read, and depending on the action you choose to take, you go read the respective footnote in the Book of Tales. This will then send you to the next plot of the scenario, which will give you some more details about the specific setup, and it gives you the goal of the specific plot. Each scenario expands to many different plots, and again, depending on what you choose and how you resolve each plot, you move on to another plot until you can finish the whole scenario. I don't want to spoil the story for you, so for this video we'll take the first plot of the Awakening scenario, and let's just vaguely say that you're looking for some parts that you get from fighting some machines, and you have 5 rounds in which you have to find them and destroy as many of them as possible. The basic gameplay is rather simple. In their turn, the active knight may perform up to 2 different actions. The basic actions you can choose from are move, camp, explore, city action. There are the plot actions, which are different according to the plot you're following. And last, you can also pass instead. Each action can be taken once per turn. The exception to this is the plot action. The active knight can take more than one plot actions in their turn, as long as each action has a different name. In order to move, the active knight creates an imaginary continuous route from their space to the space of their choice. Then the knight counts how many movement points are required to cover this route. You don't need any move points to pass through highways, but you spend 1 movement point in deserts and 2 in scrubs and in mountains. The cities have also terrain types depicted here. Then your knight's vehicle will tell you the maximum movement points you can spend in your turn. If the vehicle does not provide enough movement points for the whole route, the knight may spend available fuel, discarding it from their vehicle's tank to gain 1 extra movement point. It's important to say that before the active knight starts moving, they must prepare their gear cards so that it is clear what weapons and armor are equipped by the knight, because the move action might lead to combat, so they need to be ready. When the active knight ends their movement, the player to the right draws 1 wasteland card from the deck matching the terrain type the knight is on and places it face up on the table. If the card shows an enemy, the knight must resolve combat. If it's an event, the knight must test one of their skills, and if it's an encounter, the knight must resolve a footnote matching the letter on the card drawn according to the table of the current plot sheet. Some spaces contain danger icons. If the knight's route goes through a biohazard or radiation space, the knight must suffer 1 damage accordingly. The knight can have as much radiation as their resilience allows and wounds as many as their health allows. If it's a threat, the knight draws 1 threat token from the threat bag and it will be resolved at the end of the movement. And then we have the camp action. During this action, the knight may heal, repair stuff, use card effects, upgrade, and they can also trade with other knights. To heal, the knight may spend any number of meds. Each heals 3 normal damage or 1 radiation damage. The knight may also choose to heal the biohazard damage, but healing it just causes its token to be flipped to the normal side. So it's twice as hard to completely heal one of those. The knight may spend their repair up to its value in order to flip a broken gear card to their working side. Each gear card features a repair cost, which must be fully paid. The knight can flip as many gear cards as their repair allows. Additionally, they may discard vehicle damage tokens from their vehicle by spending 1 repair for each token. When camping, the knights may also upgrade. If the knight's XP marker is on or beyond a highlighted space, like 3, 6, or 9 of the XP track, the knight may choose 1 upgrade card from their upgrade deck and place it next to their sheet. Upgrading a knight is also done automatically at the end of their turn. Last, when we have 2 knights on the same space of a board, you place a camp marker there and move their figures to the camp space in the upper left corner of the board. If one of the knights on the camp space performs the camp action, in addition to their normal activities, they can trade gear and/or resources with any other knight in the camp space. The knights may trade in any way they wish, ignoring the barter value of the traded gear cards. They may also use their repair to flip gear cards belonging to other knights or to discard these tokens from their vehicle sheets. The Explore action is mainly used to collect resources and items. You draw the top card from the Exploration deck and you check the section matching the terrain type of your space, and it shows what you have found. If you accept the findings, you simply gain any resources or draw gear cards as shown in the matching section, and then you must resolve all negative effects if able and discard it. But you may draw another exploration card instead if your exploration allows it. This value informs how many cards altogether can be drawn during one Explore action. You are not able to return to any previous, and if you have used up all of your exploration, you must resolve the last card drawn. At any point during the Explore action, and if your vehicle is not wrecked, you can spend 1 additional fuel to gain +1 exploration and draw 1 more card. If you are in a city space, you can also perform the city action. There are 6 cities on the board you can visit, and while there, you may visit 2 different shops in any order. If you go to the quack, you heal 1 radiation and up to 4 damage according to normal healing rules. Alternatively, if you have any injury cards attached, you may discard 1 chosen injury card. If you go to the garage, you can repair up to 3 damage from your vehicle according to normal repair rules. Alternatively, if there are any malfunction cards attached to your vehicle, you may discard 1 chosen malfunction card. Then, in the workshop, you can flip 1 broken gear card to its working side, ignoring the repair cost of the card. Last, in the stalls, the knights can resolve barter and draw 3 cards from the bottom of the gear deck and placing them with their broken sides face up on the table. This is the offer. Now, if interested, the knight may discard any number of resources and/or gear cards they have in order to acquire any gear cards from the offer. Each discarded gear card is worth its barter value, and each discarded resource is worth 1. You may also acquire resources instead of gear cards this way. In general, when a knight is on a city space, all the other options are still available. They're not forced to choose the city action. So these were all the actions available in your turn. Now let's see an example of a turn and see how you can fight your enemies. So for my first action, I choose to move. I spend 4 movement points and I stop on this terrain, so I have to draw a wasteland card. I draw this one. It's an event card, Radioactive Storm, which tells me I need to test my survival skill. I have to roll 2 white dice for survival, and I need at least 2 successes to pass and gain 1 experience point. I failed, so I have to suffer 1 radiation marker on my sheet. As my second action, I choose to do a plot action, which for this plot is to fight a robot. I draw 1 from the deck created for this plot, and it's this scary jammer. This symbol here means he only attacks with the weapon, rolls these 3 dice, and has a health of 4. In combat, each of the sides can only attack once, either by making a ranged attack or a melee attack. First, the active knight must choose 1 equipped weapon with which to attack. The weapon can be ranged or melee. In order to attack with most ranged weapons, the knight also needs at least 1 ammo. They can also choose to attack barehanded if they wish to, or if they don't have any functioning weapons anymore, by rolling only their blade skill when the time comes. Then we check for any bolded threats on the enemy card. We have to draw 1 threat token from the bag. In this case, we have to discard 1 chosen resource. Some other bolded text would be ambush, which means he would attack first, ignoring its attack type, and armor piercing, which means that damage dealt by him cannot be prevented by your gear, and so on. Then we resolve combat by going through the engagement step, which is when we resolve the effects of the enemy card written under engagement, like in this example. The jammer doesn't have any, so we move to the ranged attack step. If both the combatants make ranged attacks, they do it simultaneously. I prefer to attack in melee for this one, so the jammer starts and rolls his 3 dice. He rolled 3 damages and this symbol. I can use my armor to prevent one of the damages by breaking it, but I have to suffer the remaining damage. Then after that we go to the melee attack step, so I attack by rolling my dice from the blade skill and my weapon. I rolled 4 successes, so I managed to kill him, but not so fast, as after this is the resolution phase where I have to resolve this effect and I have to break the weapon I used for this combat. For defeating him, I win 2 experience points and 1 gear, and I also get the token that was placed there by the plot, as this was a plot action. And that was combat. As you can see, the gear can be very helpful in fighting, and it's divided in 3 categories. Weapons are usually kept in hand slots and aid in combat. If kept in a vehicle, they have no effect. A weapon's abilities can only be used when a knight is actively using the weapon to attack. Armor is usually kept in the armor slot and protects you only if you wear it. Drugs and utilities are only kept in a vehicle. They are always considered equipped as long as a knight has access to their vehicle. A gear card can be in working condition or in broken condition. If something causes a working card to break, it should be flipped to its back. If something causes a broken card to break again, it must be discarded. The knight may keep up to 2 weapons in their hand slots, 1 armor in their armor slot, and as many gear cards of any kind inside their vehicle as their capacity would allow. If the knight becomes unconscious, as in their wounds are equal to the maximum hit points, they have to stop their movement if it wasn't completed. They get an injury card and they're temporarily out of the game. They cannot perform any actions or affect the game until they perform their regain consciousness action as described on their injury card. Then the injury card is flipped and the knight must attach it to their sheet to mark that they're affected by some long-term negative effect. The knight can discard injury cards by visiting the quack in any city. So that was the second edition of Waste Knights. I hope you guys enjoyed the explanation of the game, and if you want to check out the Kickstarter page, you can find the link in the description. For more videos, you can hit the subscribe button, and if you want to find me on other social media for any reason, you can find the links here. And I want to thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.